Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the TCRP Report 185 Part 1 conference call. My name is Kimberly, and I will be your operator for today. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Later, we will conduct a question-and-answer session. If at any time you require operator assistance, please press *0, and an operator will be happy to assist you. As a reminder, this conference is being recorded. I would now like to turn the conference over to your host for today, Lori Glickman. Please proceed.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the National Transit Institute, I thank you for participating in TCRP Report 185 Part 1, Operator Workstation Design for Improving Occupational Health and Safety, Bus Design Tools webinar. The National Transit Institute develops, promotes, and delivers training and education programs for the public transit industry in the United States. We are pleased to have Robin Gillespie as our presenter today. Dr. Gillespie works as a Senior Program Director, Health and Safety at the Transportation Learning Center. She previously was the Technical Director of Health and Safety, Transport Workers Union, and Health and Safety Director at the National Union of Hospital and Healthcare Employees. In addition to leading the production of TCRP Report 169, Dr. Gillespie was co-investigator on the TCRP Report 185, Bus Operator Workstation Design for Improving Occupational Health and Safety, which was published last month. Dr. Gillespie is a member of the National Occupational Research Agenda Transport, Warehouse, and Utility Sector Council and the APT Bus Safety Committee. She has recently been appointed Adjunct Associate Professor at City University of New York Murphy Institute for Labor Studies and Worker Education. Today's webinar format consists of our speaker presenting the material, followed by a discussion session at the end. You can participate in the discussion by hitting *1 on the phone at the designated time, or by using the chat pod that is located in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. If you have not already printed out a copy of the presentation that was emailed to you, you can click on the handout document in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. You can also email Barbara Van Dyke at bvandyke@npi.rutgers.edu, and she will be glad to assist you. I will now turn the presentation over to Robin.
Good afternoon, everybody. Very happy to be speaking with you. I will start by just describing what my plan is for today, and I hope that this will be a participatory event, that your contributions will move us forward in understanding how to do better bus design and bus procurement, and make sure that the people who use the equipment are involved in the development of the technology. So I'm going to start just by mentioning one thing you may not notice. If you want to see the full screen, if you want to see my slides on the full screen, there's a control button at the top of the page that says little arrows going outward. That's full screen. You click on that, you may notice. And then you can't find your way back if you want to see the smaller screen and the sidebar. Then you just swing up to the top of the page, and you'll see the way to get to the outer full screen. Just want to let you know, because I like my slides, and I think they're great to look at full screen. So here we go. We're going to talk about half of the project that Andrew Crum and I worked on, along with a lot of contributors, including some of you. I'm going to briefly describe the work that produced Report 185 and explore in some detail the organizational tools and resources. We'll finish with a discussion about your experience with using Report 185. In fact, we're going to do that partway through the session, asking you how you think you can apply the tools and resources that we've looked at, and talk about your current concerns and questions about bus operator workstation procurement in the context of operator health and safety. And especially try to understand your success stories and barriers. So it's framed as question and answers. It's not going to be question and answers, except for these are the questions, and we hope that you will answer them later on. So first I'd like to actually do a little survey and ask you, how many of you have had a chance to look at Report 185? You'll see at the top of your screen there's a little person with the hand raised. You click on that, you'll be able to say agree or don't agree. Please, if you can, click on agree if you've had a chance to look at it, and click on don't agree if you have not had a chance to look at it. I'm seeing that this is a new experience for a lot of you. This is good to understand. Okay, Cool. I love this technology because I can see what your experience is. Okay, so this is really helpful. So this is a new view for you, and I will, I think, give you a perspective that will help you when you do open it up and try to apply it. And we'll talk more about your experience with some of the procurement issues in a little while. I want to just, again, introduce the research team. Andrew Crum was the really the head of this project, and he works at the Virginia Tech Transportation Institute. He'll be doing the next seminar in a couple of weeks. I'm Robin Gillespie. I'm actually no longer at the Transportation Learning Center. I'm doing research through the Murphy Institute at City University. My next project is a TCRP project looking at bathroom access for transit operators, drivers. We're also supported by Michael Belzer, who's a transportation economist, and he produced one of the appendices of the report. So the tasks of the project were this. We were to reassess the bus operator workstation in the context of occupational health and safety. There have been guidelines. We were asked to combine them and address any recommended changes. We were asked to produce user-friendly guidelines for improving bus operator workstation design and procurement, and to develop tools for bus procurement that engage all stakeholders, and to produce training outlines to support procurement. These two end tasks are the ones that we're going to be talking about today. The research steps were this. We interviewed industry experts. We talked to transit policy and training organizations. We talked to transit agency leaders. We talked to ergonomists. We talked to manufacturers about what goes on in bus workstation design and procurement. Then we surveyed transit agencies and unions, and many of you, I think, may have been involved in that process. We interviewed transit agency managers and union officers at targeted transit agencies. And we reviewed the literature in depth, looking at transit procurement, at vehicle design, and at participatory ergonomics. Finally, we looked at a range of bus workstation standards and physical data to generate guidance on design and procurement decisions. And that's what Andrew will talk about later. When we asked people to talk about their procurement process in the context of operator safety and health, these are the core findings. All transit agency procurement teams were interested in improving operator health and safety. Everyone recognizes the demands that operators face. Everyone also recognized that bus operators have a role in procurement, and most of our respondents felt that that role should be increased. There were very common design concerns and questions about cab layout, about steering wheel position size, about seating size and adjustments, about mirrors, the range of issues that you probably have encountered when you're looking at new buses or old ones. But in-house resources that are available to transit agencies vary quite widely. And it's not just a question of size, although bigger agencies tended to have more resources. They just differed. And as a corollary, or connected concept, assessment and selection and testing was not consistent or even systematic within transit agencies and across transit agencies. Again, this is the purpose of the document that we produced, was to help this, to systematize how people are able to get information and use it. And the most important issue, I think, that was revealed consistently was that everyone felt that joint procurement and shared information among transit agencies are important paths to improved and affordable design. And we'll talk about how that works. People talked about what the role of bus operators was in choosing buses. In some cases, it was recommended or in fact practiced that bus operators were active members of the procurement team from the get-go. In some cases, they participated in targeted evaluation and problem-solving groups, but weren't consistently involved in the procurement team. In some cases, they were essentially employee users. They were given products that said, do you like this or don't you like this? Or they were given buses and said, this is what we're getting, what do you think? And then they would try it. And finally, and in a kind of passive way, sometimes they would just test subjects. That is, after procurement, they were just allowed to drive buses. This is all involvement. This all has value at different phases. It seemed like it was more frequent that people were test subjects or employee users then that they participated more fully in the selection and even the design. But people also recognized the value of involving operators earlier and more effectively in the process. The barriers that people reported. Procurement team members are overextended. In many cases, isn't just an added burden or added task, I should say. And only certain people are actually full-time procurement staff. Other people are called in when the system is in the process of writing specifications and procurement. And it was pretty consistent that important input for procurement was gathered too late to make any decisions, and especially from bus operators. There was sometimes limited coordination within the transit agency. On the larger level, it was clear to many purchasers that individual purchasers at one transit agency can't drive design. And as a result, available technology didn't match their needs, and when requested, wasn't always provided because you're one buyer. You all know this. You're not buying enough necessarily to change the product. And at times, manufacturers were thought to be unresponsive because of this. So one of the things we worked on was developing an approach that consisted of industry-wide action. Oh, that's funny. These are all coming out of order. That's what's happening. Okay, I see. Yeah, those are coming out of order. So what we wanted to talk about, I'm going to see if I can get a pointer here for you. Is that draw? Did I get a pointer with draw? No, I got it here. Sorry, pointer. Get rid of draw and then use a pointer. So here's my pointer, right? Okay. So what we want to think about is starting with involving transit agency stakeholders. Oops, that didn't work. Got it. Involving transit agency stakeholders from the beginning and in a continuing way is how you start to coordinate your actions for effective procurement. And that included, and then that proceeded to interacting directly with manufacturers and suppliers about what you want. This is not rocket science. You get this part. But you need to do it early enough so that you get what you want. Then the other step that people talked about a lot, and that really, I think, is the core to some advancement, is the cooperation among transit agencies. People described working with regional groups or through telephone conversations or at conferences with other transit agencies. And as you know, there are consortia for purchasing in some states and some regions that actually have much more buying clout than individual transit agencies. People also talked about working with transit organizations, and right now this webinar is one example of that. But working with the FTA, with APTA, with university transportation centers to work programmatically, as I'm discussing, and in terms of design, as Andrew will describe. And that will include partnering with researchers. Cooperating among transit agencies is also a great way, as I said, to interact with manufacturers and suppliers. And working with researchers is a great way for manufacturers and suppliers to get better equipment designed and tested. And the idea is that this is all supported by the FTA, by APTA, and by the transit industry as a whole. So that's our model. Sorry that the picture's just a little funny. So we produced this report, and here's the chapter guide, and there's two things I want to point out to you here. One is that the whole book is laid out in this great way. There's a margin, a big margin on each page. And that means that when you're working with it, you can write on your book. You can write notes. You can really annotate as you go through this, or put stick-ons or whatever. I love the layout. In any case, so we're going to look at Chapter 2, which is Bus Workstation Design and Procurement Process. And then after that, we're going to have a little discussion. We're going to look at Chapter 3, which is the training packages that we produce. And then in the next seminar, Andrew will talk about the development of the workstation guidelines and the human modeling, and he'll show you the tools that they use. Finally, Chapter 6 is the conclusion. Just wanted to point that out to you because I think it does bring together the concepts that are spread out through these chapters. There's going to be, so the project produced the report and the tools. tools are very practical. So there's a set of suggested procurement practices, which is a flow chart and tables. There's a procurement team training outline, a PowerPoint, and an ergonomics for bus operators training template, which we'll go over, which is also a PowerPoint slide that you can download from the TRP website, and there's a link then. And then next week again, next time we're going to talk about the feature guideline. There's an engineering CAD model that was developed, and a very nice PDF model that you can use, a user's guide to selecting the kinds of technologies that you're interested in and the size and the specifications. So, Chapter 2. Chapter 2 consists of suggested practice and a rationale for why procurement teams can approach procurement in the systematic way that addresses operator health and safety throughout. It starts in the first phase, which is where the transit agency builds and supports the procurement team. You may have a procurement team, you may not, but this describes the characteristics and how to support them in terms of training and resources. Phase 2, which is preparing for procurement. Phase 3, specification, request for proposals and award. That's the busy part, but it's only part. The first two phases really do set the stage for it. And then phase 4, which is completing the build and the rollout, and essentially that's the lifetime of your vehicle. Each practice and phase is supported. Each phase is supported with a description of suggested practices, detailed steps, and related issues and considerations. And it looks a little bit like this. Oh, sorry. First, this is, and it's very hard to read, but you've got it in your handouts and in your manual. We organize in these phases. This is the flow chart. Each phase includes organizational steps. It includes needs for data collection and analysis. It includes, and we indicate the tools that are available that we've produced that will support that process. We discuss the manufacturer role in each phase. And for example, you see here that first is the internal process, and then we're reaching out to manufacturers. We discuss the needed communication steps for each phase and each practice, and we look at the training and main recommendations for that. So this is the flow chart. And the practices are described like this. Each one, so we're in phase 1, build and support the procurement team. So the first step is actually to talk about the procurement process. Say, we're going to buy this many buses, and these are the people who have to be involved. That includes recommended practices. So step 2 is preparing and training the team and the other stakeholders who may not be on the team but are participating. And then step 3 is to maintain internal communications. So this has recommended practices that are based in what transit agencies told us they do or would like to do. And that is laid out in the document, and this is an excessive text warning because you don't have to read what I'm saying. I'm just going to show it to you, but I wanted you to really see what it looks like. So it's laid out like this. There's a step, and then there's a discussion, a consideration. What is it that supports the step, and what is it that needs to be considered? And then specifically a bus operator role for each step. And we raised this because we saw, again, that the bus operator is the user, and the bus operator is the skilled person. And so we wanted to make sure that we were really describing the active role that that bus operator plays. So this is the process for building and supporting the team. We've reviewed them. Phase 2, which is preparing for procurement, has 2 separate sections really in terms of my presentation for you now. One is collecting data, and that looks at the last procurement. And you look at what happened, what did you buy, who did you talk to, how did it work out, and what was the impact, for example, on the health of the transit workers. If you got carpal tunnel syndrome increases in bus drivers, you might want to be looking at the layout of the steering wheel, for example. But you really want to look at the important information that is related to health and safety. And there's a specific bus operator role, set of roles, which is to report any health and safety events related to the bus, and looking at and reporting any adaptations that the operators have made, concerns with the fleet, and also participating in the reviews of the procurement documents and safety reports, not just separately, but as an active member. People who know how the buses that they use work. Then there's the next step, which is to request information, and that's internal information, some of that we just mentioned, and external information from other people, perhaps, from other transit agencies, and starting to look at from manufacturers. And again, bus operator role is looking at the design, looking at images, and we'll talk in some detail about how to get very practical input from a large number of operators. Then phase 2 also has a technology segment. In order to prepare for procurement, you really need to know what's out there. So you need to be investigating new technologies and then testing or mocking up changes. And this actually shouldn't wait till you're deciding it's this year that we're going to buy a bus. Obviously, this is something you want to do all along the route, so to speak. And in this case, recommended practice is that the transit agency maintains and refers to an information base of existing and developing technology and information about its impact on operator health and safety. This, again, might be something that you ask other people about as well as just looking internally. And then testing and mocking up changes. This is you're getting ready to really see what you want and does it work for you and what do you need. And phase 3, which is the specifications, the request for proposals, and the award. I'm not going to go into the detail here. It's very hard for you to see, but basically you're defining your options with all the manufacturers that you're talking to. You're drafting your proposal, your specifications document. You're looking at changes as you go through. Sometimes you'll write a document or make a specification and it will be changed by your board or by purchasing or whoever else has an idea. Any change like that actually need to go back through the same original review. So if there's a change in the design concept, you probably need to test that again. This is a loop. And again, bus operator role can be very active. Many bus operators that I have spoken with pay a lot of attention to design and technologies, and they read about it, and they talk to coworkers about it, they discuss it at union meetings outside of the transit agency. So they're good. They're going to be good resources, and it's something that we really focus on making sure you have a sense of how to use. Then there's a build and a rollout, and there's again, you're probably familiar with this phase, but in a general way, when you're monitoring the bus build and you're testing pilot buses, and your procurement agreement indicates who's going to be on site, who's going to be at the factory, what kind of testing and warning you're going to have, and how long you have to make revisions, and what it's going to cost you to make revisions. So that's the phase where you look at the monitoring bus build and testing the pilot buses and evaluating and correcting the problems, both in warranty and fleet defect, and then refit and retrofit. Again, in each case we tell you, we give you some ideas about how to make this work for you. This is not designed to make your life harder, actually designed to make it easier despite the dense text. Because these are practical ideas that people have talked about, ways to make their process more efficient and simpler, more effective in any case. So, okay, so can we discuss this? I'm pretty interested in your experience. Well, actually it's not going to work too well. Very few of you have, some people have used Report 185. Would the person or people who have used Report 185 be willing to describe what you did, and did you look at it, and what does it mean to you? If so, you can raise your hand. And we'll call on you. Is that going to work? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised. That's okay. So let me ask a different question. What do you, how many people here are actively involved in procurement right now? Or let's say this year. So then go back to your little hand and click it, and click off if you said no about using the manual, and click yes if you're actually involved in procurement right now. Can you do that? I got some people. I got a hand raised. Does the hand raise mean you want to speak, or you're trying to say yes?
If they want to speak, we have to tell the operator that they want to speak, and then they have to hit star one if they do want to speak.
Okay, because I have hands raised. Does that mean you want to speak?
Well, you
how do we know they want to? How does it work? What?
Don't. We have to call the operator and tell her to make the announcement about hitting star one, and then she lets people into the room.
Okay. So
Kimberly.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to ask an audio question, please press star 1 on your phone, then immediately record your name, followed by the pound key. We will take questions in the order received. Once again, press star 1, immediately record your name, followed by the pound key.
And again, this doesn't have to be questions, it can be comments. So
press star.
I'm seeing about 4 or 5 people who are actively involved in procurement right now, and a lot of people who are not, and then some people who haven't revealed all yet. So I just was curious about this answer because I really wanted to know. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do, if this will help you in the future. So if you're involved in procurement now, if this will make a difference for you. So let's move on. And we'll have time for a little more discussion in a little while.
So Kimberly, nobody called in? Nobody dialed in?
There is no one in queue at this time.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's what I figured. So good. So thanks for answering those of you who did. As I said, there's 4 or 5 people who are currently active in procurement. And I want to, at the end of the session, once I've just gone over a little bit more, I really want to share what you're doing and how this might work for you, this product. But let me just first go over the training chapter. This was an important part of the mandate, but it was also one that we were able to produce guidelines for training, and we were able to get a lot of information about the kind of training that people are already doing and the training that seemed likely to support better procurement. And that's what we've got here. So Chapter 3 includes a discussion of the training that's being done and these recommendations. The procurement team training tool, which is a PowerPoint that you can download from the same site as the report, that outlines the components of procurement team training that will enhance bus operator ergonomics, health, and safety. The other PowerPoint that's available is an ergonomics training for bus operators template that's designed to be filled in at each transit agency, but it actually is fairly extensively completed as it is. Again, Chapter 3 explains the background, the content, and how to use the tools. This is the first page of the procurement team training outline. And here's the training areas that were recommended. The first area was procurement, actually just teaching people about procurement. Right now, typically just the procurement officers are trained about the procurement process. The engineers, sometimes what the safety people, the operations and maintenance people who might also be involved in specifications aren't necessarily up to date and savvy about the whole process and how you have to make decisions, and in particular, how you make these decisions in a way that enhances bus operator health and safety. The second area is technical skills and knowledge, and this I think is the most exciting. The future is here, because we really think it was really clear from talking with people how important it was that the team understands the health and safety issues, specifically how the workstation affects operator health and safety. And that could even be based on the training that I'm going to show you in a minute for bus operators. Ergonomics and anthropometrics and design concepts on a basic level so that you know how to think about blueprints and how to, or at least think about the design process and the demands on the bus operator. It's also important to understand basic occupational health and safety issues, such as perhaps assault, health, which might mean access to food, temperature exposures, because these are all things that are affected by or interlinked with the design of the bus cab. Critical that the team actually understands about driving. There are technical people in all transit agencies that never drove a bus, and it's it was considered very important that that everyone really gets on a bus and sits with, you're not going to drive the bus, but you're going to sit with the driver and really see what life is like in that vehicle that you're purchasing. And also maintenance the same way, because maintenance is another set of demands, and buses are designed not only for how you drive them, but how you fix them and the requirements of that. And this, I'm sorry, this was what we considered to be the technical skills and knowledge for the whole team. Everybody who's involved in transit, in bus specification and procurement should really understand this. Whether it's all covered in one session, or whether these are 5 different hours, or whether how you do this, it will vary depending on the size of your team and the size of your transit agency and your procurement. But again, really important to understand this. If you're going to be buying buses, that you understand how it is that they're used and fixed. And then finally, we felt that there was this area of that their advanced skills and knowledge. And some of our experts felt very strongly that everyone should understand this stuff, that everyone should have training. Everyone on the procurement team should have training in product and vehicle design. But, you know, to be frank, that's not possible in most places, and it's not even necessarily necessary, but you do need someone who can explain it to you. So one transit agency, I love the way they talked about it, they actually did a blueprint reading session for the safety department because they felt there were so many ergonomics issues that were related to blueprint and specifications that it was important for the safety team to understand how to read a blueprint. And so that was an advanced skill that they provided to a larger group. But you may also just be able to have someone come in and explain to you, here, this is what this means. This is how we read this. It doesn't necessarily have to be a formal skill. In those areas of skills, advanced skills that should be available to the team, you should be able to call on someone who understands it, and better yet, more importantly, rather, can explain it to you. Include issues of product and vehicle design, CAD and specifications, and product testing. So that's what we're looking at. And the way this section is laid out in the recommendations, for each area, each module, say in this case product and vehicle design, that would be an advanced skills section. We define the purpose of the training, the content of the training, and supporting materials that exist currently. So for example, the purpose would be to define the background for bus design, selection, and build, and allow the procurement team to make practical proposals and provide tools for developing effective RFPs. And the content is looking at steps in design, stakeholder roles, and the actual bus manufacturer design and build processes. And these are the materials that would support it. So each of those areas of training I talked about in the last slide are amplified with these purpose, content, and materials. This training does not exist yet. You may be doing some of it internally. There are some related trainings that you might find that already exist, but you may have to, one, develop it yourself, or develop it with other transit agencies. Or perhaps this is something that in the future can be done on a national level or a joint level through one of the transit training centers or research centers, university transportation centers. So we also developed an ergonomics training for bus operators. This is a little bit to the side of the procurement process. This is really about ergonomics and demands on bus operators. These slides are not in your handout because there's many. I'm going to go through them quickly, but go through them all. But it is available online as a PowerPoint. And the idea, again, that this is a template for transit agencies. You put your own information into this. And you have it as a PowerPoint slide that you can use. So this covers these 4 sections: the ergonomic demands of work, the bus workstation target areas, the transit agency's programs, policies, and forms, and training notes and activity examples that you might want to use if you're going to be doing ergonomics training for your bus operators or vehicle operators generally. And those are the objectives of the training that helps bus operators understand their exposures, to use the workstation elements, to have good body mechanics, to feed back to the transit agency on workplace safety, health, and comfort, to use checklists and forms, and to report concerns, and potentially to participate in analyzing and improving ergonomics risks in the workplace. So this is just some statement, this is that ergonomics matters and this transit agency is doing good things. And it explains how ergonomics applies to the job. This is section 1 that explains the work demand. And it talks about stressful positions. And it gives examples, visual examples of stressful positions. Bust demands, back demands rather, hand posture, wrist and back, shoulder. And the trainer would talk about these or get the training group to talk about it. In the statement, the content is defined in the title of the slide. This is how steering, for example, can affect the whole body because of the postural demands it creates. Here's an example of reaching out. And you can adapt all this. You can change your language. So, for example, working comfortably and safely, this would depend on your own bus. This would be where you put in your own slides and show how mirror adjustment, body alignment, seat setting, and steering techniques apply in your transit agency, in your vehicles. We didn't put pictures in because there's so many different vehicles. It also talks about forceful motion, lifting, and you might want to insert your lifting instructions here if this is something that you cover in your ergonomics training. It looks at repetition, duration. You might have materials about breaks so that people are relieving their static strain. You might have information about exercise. You could insert that there. Vibration is a summary, and there might be any transit agency initiatives. Maybe you are reducing vibration through technology changes. You can talk about that. Visual demands, very important area that has to do with pedestrian visibility, glare. This is an area where you're going to, again, want to review your own concerns in the training of your bus operators. We also covered physiological demands, how seated work affects people's stress and fatigue, and cognitive demands. And again, you might want to review your transit agency concerns and your solutions. This summarizes the health impact so that people know how to watch their own bodies and see what's going on. And then you include and look at symptoms that may be related and to review your own internal, that's there. You review your internal symptoms and injury policy. When do you report? How do you report problems that you have? And then this section is up to you. This is target areas with solutions. We're going to be looking at seating. You're going to put your own stuff in here, mirrors, that you're going to see. This is how our steering wheels work. This is how you set them. This is how you adjust them. Pedals. This would be whatever biomechanical ergonomics demands that you're encountering in your workspace. So these are blank because they're up to you. And section 3 also, but it's a little more guidance, looking at your policies, programs, and forms. Perhaps you have an ergonomics program that would lay out the components of that. You may have policies on health and safety information access, inspections, reporting concerns, and reporting pains and strains. Those forms that you're going to want to cover, equipment problems, ergonomics inspections, other things that you have internally. And if you don't have them, this gives you an idea of what you might want to have. And then in your training, you will provide follow-up and takeaway information about how to report calendar information, events that are coming, and context. Section 4 is about training. It's just training notes. It gives you some ideas about how to involve trainees in hands-on work, in active learning activities, and in out-of-class work. You might split this session and have people do a little bus inspection and then come back another day. This describes those, the hands-on work, mock-ups, practicing, doing checklists in pairs, and then these all support more effective information delivery and learning. So these are the activities. I'm sorry. They're learning activities, making maps perhaps. You might have experienced workers training others. That's a way for both sides to learn. It might be case studies that you develop. And this is to match your own workforce. And then out-of-class work. So there may be, as I said, a bus ergonomics checklist, some evaluation, or interviewing coworkers. So that's the training. 2 sets of training template. But we also have, and this is the fun part that you're really going to enjoy in the next session when Andrew Crum talks to you about the features guideline. That actually looks at all the different parts of the bus and how to make sure or how to decide whether what you have now or what you want to buy conforms with accepted standards and which standards it does conform with. So you're going to talk about that, not today, but I wanted you to see that it's there, and it's very practical, and I think you'll really get a lot out of that. So I just want to go back to where we started and looking at the model for effective procurement, starting with involving transit agency stakeholders, interfacing with manufacturers and suppliers, cooperating among transit agencies, working with transit organizations, and partnering with researchers. I want to talk about that now. So I'd like to open it up to questions and comments. One of the things I think that happens when we have this conversation is that you may want to talk to each other, not to me, because I've just told you what I do. I've showed you what I've done. You are the ones who are now, whether you're a bus operator or a procurement manager or a maintenance, a maintainer, you are the ones who are going to have to make decisions about what a bus should look like and how it should work and how to do that in the context of the bus operator health and safety. And I would say the maintainer health and safety as well because of the demands for repair. So this is it. How do you think you can apply the tools and resources? I'd like to know what are your current concerns and questions. But again, I'm not the one who's going to answer them necessarily, but I think putting them on the table, describing what you're doing would be great, whether they're success stories or barriers. So that's what I want to do now. I've been talking at you for 40 minutes, but I would like to hear what you have to say. And so how this works is we have 43 people on the line, and anybody who wants to talk can. You just need to press *1, and then you'll be joined to the call. It takes a little bit, and I think if also you can just type a question in to the chat, which is blank now, so I know that no one has yet. So go ahead.
Operator, can you make the announcement?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, please press *1 on your phone and immediately record your name followed by the # key. To ensure your question is registered, you must record your name.
And also, when you do come on, tell us who you are and where you work. While we're waiting, I'm reading a question. Can I do this, Lori? The question is the challenges. The challenge of not knowing what options are available during the build process. I got it, Monica, because I also said it right. Not knowing what's available. What can we choose, right? And this is something that a lot of people talked about. What's the solution? What have you been doing? Some people talked about that's where there's a couple of these maintenance chat rooms. They're not chat rooms. They're listservs where people type in, and they're regional, and they write in. They talk to each other about what they're doing. That's one source about knowing what's out there. The labor unions, especially the Amalgamated Transit Union, has a lot of information about the limited options. They're not the widest that you might think. You could consult with your members, in fact, and your employees. You consult with other people working on the issue. These are some thoughts.
The first question comes from the line of
Roland Cordero, Foothills Transit.
Please proceed.
Okay, you mentioned earlier that the procurement team should have training in on product and vehicle design. I mean, there's a lot of components involved in designing a vehicle, especially a bus. Having some training is basically having an engineer or a bus designer being part of the team, I mean, why would we have to know how to design a vehicle when we're just building the specifications?
Right. Well, you don't have to know how to design a vehicle, but you do have to understand what vehicle design, or specifically we're focusing at the bus operator workstation. I am not talking about the engine and the air conditioning system and all that. You do need to know, in order to buy the right thing, you should know, so maybe your engineer explains it to you. Maybe that's the extent of the training. Your engineer explains that, in order to test something, we have to do this and this and that. And these are the limitations because whatever the area you're talking about, if it's the steering wheel and the range of steering and issues of, transmission or steering to the steering system, training can be skilled people explaining to you. And I think that when I spoke about it in the training for all, right, in the area of training for all, the second section, really was to understand what the path is, not all the details, the engineering details. Okay. For advanced training, you should have somebody involved with it who knows what they're talking about and really knows things like steel tolerance, right, or torque, or all kinds of things.
We're familiar with that. We're familiar with that because we specify every component of the bus. But I was just.
And are you the engineer?
I'm the director of maintenance and vehicle technology. I'm not an engineer, but I know what goes into the bus itself.
Exactly. So you have that knowledge. So that's great. So you don't necessarily have to have everybody knowing all that. You don't. You don't want everybody knowing all that because it's sort of a waste of everybody's time. But you would like to have people understand the limits and the potential of the design process.
One of the things that I noted in our operators, we have varied sizes of operators. I mean, I'm here in Southern California, so, I mean, height-wise, weight-wise, built-wise. Has there been an ergonomic study performed to come up with, I'm not looking for average, there's got to be various adjustments that can be incorporated in the bus itself that in a way would satisfy most of, the different.
Right, so that's one of the things, that we looked at very carefully was the definition of anthropometrics in the population. And we used some modern, Andrew really used modern databases that were related to truck drivers. There is no great bus driver anthropometric database that says this is how the biggest one is, this is how the smallest one is, and this is what you do about it. But in the specifications that we'll be discussing in the next section, that the consideration for Andrew's going to kick me. I want to say 5 to 97 percentile.
Did you say truck drivers or bus drivers? I'm sorry.
Well, the database that was available was about truck drivers. Because there is no database available. No, I know. It's a problem. So
totally different.
For the short, it's changing, but they're both changing. But we did focus on using, and again, there are several different anthropometric sources. But really, they tried very hard to, and you'll see it when you look at the specifications, guidance documents in the manual and the tools. They are based on a very wide range of sizes, and you can adjust it depending on your group. There's places where everybody's big. There's places where many more people are small. And the idea was to create a tool that you could use to adapt to the modern workforce. But it is tough because the next step is actually getting the equipment that is adjustable or effective for that group. And that's something where, again, it's a push to the manufacturers and to the industry. We have the concept, we have the recommendations, but getting those choices, buying those choices.
Sometimes.
Can I just say there's actually several other people with questions?
Yes, go ahead.
So,
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, there's adjustments for the seats, there's adjustments for the steering wheel, but I think one of the issues that need to be addressed is the adjustability of certain pedals on the bus itself. Because you're going to adjust the seat height as low as you can, but if it still doesn't fit the person, and
and that's something that I think some of the unions are working on the issue, and some of the manufacturers, and there's some parts manufacturers who are thinking about it, but it's going to take some real coordination. Let me go to the other questions. Thank you very much for that question. There's a question here about developing a team. And the idea of training and interaction with other agencies is a good place to start. This is really a comment, and it's a good one. It says, our challenges seem to be creating a paradigm shift in how to get the end users involved in the process early enough to make a difference. So, Tim Rutherford, I think, from Community Transit, I think you really are describing what we try to design into this description. That's what this document is supposed to help you do. Do people have time for it? Will they do it? It's a thing, and there's a lot of silo going on in transit. But yes, I think that is, and the most exciting thing I saw was the interaction among people at the working level, operations, maintenance, driving, across transit agencies. It really is going to be internal and then across the industry. I have another question, which is that, is driver noise exposure and whole body vibration taken into consideration during design of the buses? It's not taken, and driver noise exposure isn't specifically required, for example, by your bus center in Pennsylvania. They don't test driver noise exposure, they do test outside noise. And whole body vibration is a consideration. It's a question is it taken into consideration enough to protect workers? And that's where, again, the communication between the buyer and the manufacturer is so important. And again, there are also academics doing research on whole body vibration and the design of seats. And there's, again, union people who know a lot about this, the design of seats that will reduce the transmission of whole body vibration, but it is not a solved problem in any way, especially about noise. I don't even know how carefully it's being resolved. The next question was, is a bus operator included in the decisions on bus design? The concept here is that this is every step of the way in this product. We talk to bus drivers, and we talk about what the role should be. We make very strong recommendations. The recommendations were based in practice as well. These were things that people do, or thought that they should be doing, or thought they could be doing. So take a look at the document. It's online, and you'll really see that each step of the way that the goal is to get the bus operator, who is the user, involved. Is it happening at your transit agency? I don't know. Is it happening at everybody's transit agency? No. We know that because people told us that. They said, no, sometimes we just show them the bus after it's brought. And they just, or just a couple of senior bus drivers may be involved, and they do like a rodeo kind of thing and test the bus. So no. The next question is, was the after bus procurement guidelines reviewed to see if it addresses coach operator comfort and safety? Now you use the word coach operator, and I'm not sure if your question is actually about coach operator, because the after bus procurement guidelines focuses on transit bus, as did our discussion, but the concepts apply to coach bus as well. We interviewed transit agencies. I talked to drivers from coach locations, but no, I didn't talk to Greyhound about this, for example. So this question about if the procurement guidelines were reviewed. The procurement guidelines were reviewed as part of the process, and we discussed the whole product with the APTA procurement group, as well as with the bus safety group. So the idea was actually that maybe this product the goal was that this product that we've developed will become a supporting document to future bus procurement guidelines. So that there's some of the elements of ergonomics that are based on what was Report 25, which is from 18 years ago, which is one of the things that we were revising, and we looked at those guidelines as part of the background for this research. And some of those issues are in the procurement guidelines, but not so practically. And so we're looking to see how this will support the white book, essentially. If that's your question, Mr. Cordell, I'm not sure. I just want to talk because I'm responding to these questions that are written. Are there any more online questions?
There are no questions in the queue at this time.
Okay, well, we have some people typing, a name I recognize. So, yeah, so that seems to be a reasonable way. I mean, what I'd like to do is step out and have you guys all talk about this. I'd like you to go go and have a meeting, a webinar yourself, or a discussion group. We did actually set up a discussion group like that. I don't know how effective it's been yet. For people to share information about workplace health protection and promotion. That was TCRP report 169. And so I'd like to see you guys following. So we have from Tracy Hamer, we have what frustrates our efforts to pursue meaningful changes to improve operator experience is the lack of adjustability in various component parts. Like the best height range we could get for steering wheel columns is only 2.5%. 2.5 inches, sorry. And does Report 185 contemplate these sorts of issues? You know, this is essentially design and purchasing concept. And I don't know if there's anybody in the group who wants to speak to this. Maybe Andrew Klum, or I don't know. Does somebody want to answer that question? Because I think it does contemplate it, but I don't think it resolves it. Am I wrong there, colleagues? I just think if there was a common, I'm waiting for somebody to call in if they want to talk, if any of my colleagues want to answer this question more directly. It is something that came up quite constantly with that. There are limitations. You make something bigger, you have to make something smaller. You push something back, you don't have room to stand up. There are problems about design. And there's also problems with the limited range of choices in the selection process. And that's where, if you look back at that, the image I had about the this one, can you see this? So when we talk about this part, we talk about interfacing with manufacturers and suppliers. And that if one transit agency says, I need this, and the manufacturer says, well, you can't really have that, or it would cost you a gazillion, you can't have that, then one of the answers is to connect with among transit agencies. We all want that thing. One of the answers is also to partner with researchers, because maybe that's not going to work. Maybe there's another solution that we could test, or maybe there's a way to do that. And then this becomes a loop, right, among all of these actors, where we agree that there is a needed change, and that this would, and then we can start to think about what the solution would be. Tracy, is that at all helpful? Now, we've come to the witching hour. We've all been together for an hour, and I know that means that some people have to leave. This is my experience. If you don't have to leave, we're very happy to have you stay. And so, yeah, and more comments and more questions. Okay, well, that's silent. Lori, are we good?
I guess we're good. Let's wrap it up. I want to thank everyone for participating in this webinar. A special thank you to Robin for her informative presentation. As a reminder, you will be receiving an invitation to fill out an evaluation for this event. NTI greatly appreciates your feedback and would love to hear from you. Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's conference. Thank you for joining. You may now disconnect. Have a great day.